Hello and welcome to Please Watch This podcast. Two film-loving mates with gaps in their viewing history recommend films to one another so they can once and for all answer the question, who has better taste? My name is Sam Blakely and I'm joined, as I ever will be, by Hugh Dempsey. Hello Hugh.
Hello Sam, how are you today?
Tip-top.
Good
Top
stuff,
cap.
mate. So are you ready for today's episode 1, or should I say episode 5?
Oh, well, that's giving it away a little bit already, hasn't it? I wonder
well,
what
it's in the title of the description of the podcast, so I'm sure our listeners...
There's no suspense left in media content.
There isn't, is there? I mean, we'll get into that.
Who needs suspense? So each week, as the description suggests, we'll be recommending a film to one another. That other person has to watch it. They've never seen it before, and we decide, was it a good recommendation or not? So let's get into today's episode. Hugh will be hosting this one. He's the one who's recommended the film. Take it away, Hugh.
Yes, so the reason I've recommended this film today is because, so the reason we've decided to start this podcast, as Sam said in the introduction there, is because me and Sam have been friends a long time, and it turned out that I didn't know this about Sam. I found out a couple of years ago that Sam had never actually seen Star Wars, which I just assumed after watching films with him when we were teenagers that he had seen it. How do you feel about this clear deficiency in your life?
I think it's one of the represented stats. I think there's a lot more people like me who haven't seen it, who feel terrorised by people who have. We didn't have the parentage to tell us to watch it when we were sub 13 years old, and we never got round to it because we've seen it. I've watched Family Guy, I've watched every TV show and everything ever. I've seen it. And in a more real sense, I've now seen it. Well,
you've seen Empire, haven't you?
I've seen Empire. I saw New Hope a while ago. And not to spoil anything, but reasonably soon I'll be watching Return of the Jedi and reporting on my response to that. Yeah,
so we're not actually doing Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
That'd be logical.
Because obviously that already exists.
I've seen it, and I've seen it. These are the rules of the game. You can't recommend a film I have actually seen.
That is, we're establishing the continuity for this universe right here and now.
We've hamstrung ourselves with our rules from point one. So
exactly.
I mean, this is it. Yeah. Rebel Kids, Mavericks, Tom Selleck. Top Gun. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Yeah, you're just rambling now. So don't worry about it. So I'll take over then.
Yeah, you take over. So I think I'm right in saying you now tell me why you love Empire Strikes Back.
Yes. So basically, how this works is the reason we recommend these films to each other is because we've all not seen lots of films, but there's plenty of rubbish films out there that you're not going to watch. You're not going to waste your time watching it. But Star Wars and Empire for me personally is, look, it might sound like a cliche, but it is probably my favourite movie, simply because of what it represents, because it's not a kids' film, but it's aimed at a young adult audience. So I watched it first when I was about 8 years old, I think, maybe 9 years old, back in 96, I think it was, I first saw it, so I would have been 8.
Math checks out.
My math is good. Thank you for that.
You do the math.
I can do math without an S. So yeah, I saw Empire when I was about 8 years old. Didn't think much of it as an 8-year-old. Thought that Jedi, if plot spoilers for those who've seen Jedi.
Oh yeah, there will be spoilers.
Yeah,
but you've had 40 years.
Yeah, and there will also be blood because I've not seen that.
That's good.
Cross reference there for future episodes.
Stay tuned for this sort of sharp wit.
Indeed. So yeah, I saw that, and I'll be honest, when I was an 8-year-old, I didn't really like Star Wars that much. I kind of liked Empire, but I loved Jedi because it had a big space battle at the end, and it had lightsabers, and I had friends at school who liked it. So I kind of got into it, and yeah, as I got older, I got more into movies, and a lot of the stuff with that, say, Lucasfilm has done is on those videos. So there was the 1997 special edition videos that came out. So that they came out, I think, in Christmas 97, yeah. So the movies came out, re-released in the May I think it was the May, June, and August or something like that in cinemas with some special features. And I actually got them for a Christmas present. It was like my main Christmas present in 1997. I was hooked, like a drug. And I watched all, the special featurette videos that they did.
Yeah, which is a shit ton of, I assume.
For 1997, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Because you just didn't get these on videos.
This is a DVD thing, really, or
yeah.
I remember going to Blockbuster and they had 3 VHS tapes for £1.
Yeah.
This was in the day when they were phasing it out, and I got a Slipknot special features video that was 20 minutes long, and it was a VHS.
Wow. 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
it was dream.
What a nightmare.
I mean, on
What's a platform?
On these videos, they had varying lengths, and it was George Lucas and Rick McCallum, the producer, going through the various changes they had made. So they showed you all the stuff that they'd made before the film. So if you had seen the original films, which I had at that point on video, like 6, 7, 8 months before, you would see the bits that they changed, but they would show that to you beforehand. So you would watch it, trying to watch for those changes. Now in Empire, there's so few. So we're going to get into this now as well. So which version did you watch? Do you know? Because there's the original theatrical release,
right,
which was valid up until 1997.
Am I right in thinking in 1997 they added Boba Fett to A New Hope?
They did, yeah.
Right, so that was a year of tinkering.
Yeah.
New Labour government, new Star Wars.
Yeah, well, these Americans and their following of British politics.
Heavily influenced.
Obviously, I mean, you see George Lucas and Tony Blair hanging out all the time back in the day.
Well, that's the problem. I've never seen them in the same room together. So
yeah, they could be the same person.
That's what I'm saying.
Some Illuminati stuff there, Sam.
Well, I mean, something that you're alluding to with this, director's cut, special features, or which release did you see, blah, well, there's 12 minutes on this that really... This is the sort of thing that puts people off watching Star Wars if they haven't seen it, because they go, do you know what? I'd rather not get invested in this stuff.
Yeah.
I was quite late to Blade Runner, and that already had me reticent. I was in my, I think, mid-20s, let's say, when I first watched Blade Runner, because I just thought, whatever version I watch, someone's going to go, oh, well, you've not seen the real Blade Runner, so you can't really know. So the version I watched, I don't know. I mean, I watched a DVD version from a box set I bought, 5 years ago. And what would be a signifier of the version I'm watching? Is there anything?
Yes. So on this version, I think the version you've got's the 2004 release where they tinkered again. So So about 6-7 years later, quick math, they did some more updates. So George Lucas went, well, we got some more CGI here. This is my George Lucas impression.
That's
be
good.
Impressed.
I assume.
Worked on it for 20 years, or more. So George Lucas decided to tinker again and just tighten up a few things that were missing. To be honest, all the big changes were made in the 1997 one. All they did here was in Empire, all they did was they added the actor Ian McDiarmid in as the Emperor. What we thought we would do each episode is say what the favourite scene from a film. Now, I know that's quite a fraught thing because, good films have lots of good scenes, but...
It's not best scene. It's favourite scene.
It's
important. It's all opinion. We know that.
Yeah. Yeah, distinction. That is an important distinction. To be fair to you, it is what is my favourite scene, not the best scene, because sometimes my favourite scene and the best scene of the film will link up.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because, duh. that's how good movies work. But I think my favourite. I haven't actually got a favourite scene from Empire.
Oh bloody hell! What a feature!
I know. Yeah,
this is
the problem. That is the problem with this because it's my favourite film of all time.
Yeah.
There are some scenes that I do like more than others, but I like the majority of them altogether. I would have to go. I'm gonna be classic. I didn't know when I was a kid that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father. And yeah, the bit right at the end when they're having the lightsaber battle on the weird bridge thing in the empty chasm of that. It's a city and it's got a big empty chasm in the middle of it. I mean, what do they do in there? Is it like air filtration? I mean,
is this why it's your favourite scene? All the questions you had about it. Well, is this air filtrations? Mummy, this is a silly man. What's he doing with his bloody air filtration?
Yeah, why is he out on this? Like, honestly, why is there a big? There's a lot of this in Star Wars as well. These big chasmous spaces within large superstructures.
Big air hangar studio.
Yeah,
with a green screen and
I mean, is it so the people who work and live in the offices, that face into the city, so they have something to look at? And there's this like pretty bridge in the middle. Like, what's the function of that bridge? I never really understood it. I mean, look, we're getting into the devil's in the detail here. Let's ignore this. So, it's all there for dramatic effect, as we know. But yeah, when they come out of the corridor, that's like, the red and black corridor sort of thing, and he goes through the window, and they start fighting on the bridge, and Luke gets a little hit in on the arm, and he goes, oh, gold. And obviously, at that point, Darth's just been toying with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the best. It is my favourite scene because the reason you remember it, it's the reason it's in pop culture. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that whole scene from start to finish. So from the moment he walks through the doors into the carbonite chamber, and to the moment that he gets sucked through the tube at a weird, really bad. Like, if they were going to go back and change something, I would have changed that bit so it looked more naturalistic.
No,
but
let's change the Emperor. No. Let's not change that.
Yeah, that was the one I noticed as a kid. It was like, well, so that's why I'm like, is there airflow? Is he? Because like he would have splattered.
Just a lucky drop, and somehow the aerodynamics, and yeah.
Even because you can tell it's filmed in such a way that he's just laid down and gone, right, Luke, right, Mark, lift your legs up and go, and
and that don't die. You haven't died.
Yeah,
against physics. Yeah, no, fair enough. I think it's probably a lot of people's favourite scene. Certainly, first viewing, it's the whole big thing, isn't it? That's the film that I say people remember about it. So favourite scene. Why do you think I might like it? So we're gonna do why you think I might like it, why you think I might not like it, and then we'll get we'll get my views on it.
So the reasons I think you might like it is because you enjoyed the fact that the bad guys actually win at the end of this film. Now, in today's context, that's not. It's still unusual in these films, but it's not so unusual. And I think in '77, it was just completely out there. Nobody expected that Luke would get battered, get his hand cut off, that the Emperor would win, hand would go in carbonite. They barely escape from Darth Vader and all this. That I don't think anyone expected that back then. And as a child, I kind of like, that was a bit of a boring ending.
Did you think maybe there was 40 minutes left where they were gonna, hands fine, the rebels win?
Well, I expected, because I'd seen Star Wars, there to be at least some sort of space battle when I was 8 years old, and I'm like, that's the end of the film. Now,
was it known at the time that there was a third one on its way?
No, I don't think there was. I think it was...
that must have had a certain frisson that you don't get from, say, Infinity War, much as I love Infinity War, knowing that it's one of two.
Yeah, or like Lord of the Rings,
The
Two Towers. You knew that, obviously, because people had read the books, but you knew that there was going to be a third one coming.
So much in the news that, they filmed all three at once. It took 7 years and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
They had other actors and they dropped out right early on. You don't learn all these stories, don't you, about these things because they become popular. And, you can watch the whole... I mean, there's hours and hours of documentaries about Star Wars. I'm not going to go into all the details here because, we want to keep this...
We're only two people.
Yeah, and, we're not writing an article for the New Yorker. That's our reference point.
Not yet. That's the end of the...
Yeah.
That's the career journey ladder.
we're not that kind of podcast, quite frankly. We want to give you details, but we're not going to, there's stuff we have lives.
Yeah, it's a deep dive, but I'm not going to drown.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what, and I think you also would like it. I think you would like it because of that. I also think you would like it because you get to know the characters a bit better. You see the tension between, like the fear that Luke Skywalker has about Darth Vader. You get the bit on Dagobah where he's doing his training. Everyone loves a training montage. What else do I think you would like about it? See, I don't think you like this film, to be brutally honest.
So what do you think I wouldn't like about it?
Well, honestly, I don't think you would like it because it's probably going to confirm everything. So that all your pre-existing biases against Star Wars, because you didn't, like you said earlier, you didn't watch it as a child.
Yeah.
You watched it as an adult in his 30s. Well, that doesn't make sense. So what? He trained for like 2 days, and now he can suddenly take on Darth Vader after nearly cutting his feet off when he was hung upside down in a nice cave.
The Wampa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Shall I give my? We should really have a jingle, for this.
Yep.
Anyway.
Well, if we put one in here.
Yeah. Too jazzy? Yeah, we'll do it. So here's my opinion. You were right. I didn't like it.
Okay, tell me if there was some, before you give me your opinion on whether you liked it or didn't like it. In fact, obviously you've given me your opinion now. No, I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But so we know you don't like it. We'll find out why. Actually, in fact, tell us what you did like about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
Let's go with the positive start.
There are the iconic bits,
and
for many of them, I can see why they're iconic in the context of the film.
Yeah,
and they're heavily quoted, and they were amazing at the time, and so on. I like how innovative it must have been, and surprising it must have been at the time. As you said, the villain winning, not just being destroyed or anything like that. I like some of the themes. I do like the sort of light side, dark side battle.
Yeah.
This whole idea of the key to the kingdom of heaven is the same key as the key to the kingdom of hell.
Yeah.
This sort of thing. I do like those things. I think it's mythic and it's archetypal. It really understands archetype, and it really does follow. Like I said, it's mythic, and it's something that's inspired a lot of things and has been inspired by a lot of things. So it does hold a rightful place in cinematic history.
Yeah, so just on that point there, so people who know Star Wars will know this, but for those non-Star Wars fans, so George Lucas, when he was at university in the early 70s, he actually, or even been late 60s, he read the work, the work of mythologist Joseph Campbell, especially his book The Hero with a Thousand Faces, directly influenced Lucas, and is what drove him to create modern myth of Star Wars.
And in that vein, Darth Vader did work. His theme entrance music, if he's a wrestler, works. He works as a character. He's very imposing, and he steals the scene more than any other character does, really. It sort of works as part of a trilogy in that it picks up where it left off, and then it leaves plenty to be dealt with in the next one. As we know, I haven't seen the next one, but I very heartily assume that this just picks up nicely from there. Okay. Those are the things I like. The things I didn't like, if we're ready for that, things I didn't like is I don't think it's very well made. I don't think it's very well plotted. I don't think it really has a plot.
Right. Okay. So you felt it like kind of ambled around looking for something to do.
It really did. I think the thing that when I first started watching it, the thing that really got it for me was Luke on Hoth, and he's kidnapped by that Wampa, and that's completely not relevant to anything. Maybe it tells us he's got the Force, but we knew that from A New Hope.
Yeah.
the Wampa doesn't come back at all. It gets Han out into the tundra, but then they're just fine, and that's fine. Maybe it incorporates the fact that he's a bit of a reactive hero rather than active, but it just felt like, oh, here's a character we can sell toys of.
Right. So do you know the Wampa or whatever it's called? I don't know the name of it.
I googled it just so I could say
I
figured
you googled.
Was annoying.
The abominable snow Hoth monster.
The Hoth Yeti.
Yeah, Hoth Yeti. Yeah, that's on his business cards. He was actually left-handed, so it's kind of awkward. And so originally, what they actually planned, there is scenes, and you can Google these. They're quite hilarious. They had that the Wampa came back and followed them to the base and tried to kill them during the attack by the Imperial forces.
This is my point about there being no plot. That's not adding anything, is it? I mean, you've got Darth Vader. Yeah. Who's this Wampa? What's his motivation? And I think it also that point actually ties in a little bit as well of why you thought I wouldn't like it, and one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy it was because of the religion around it. Because I was trying to be really objective, but I was just geared up not to like it or to really love it and be seduced by it. And I wasn't seduced by it. I was bored by a lot of it, which is just blasphemy to love it. And that kind of annoyed me more and got me just like, oh, this is not the film that I was, that I'm looking for. And I've spoken to a few people this week, and I'll surprise you, I didn't like Empire Strikes Back, and they blow their mind. It blows their mind. I thought it would be quite a common thing. I googled it, Empire Strikes Back bad opinion or whatever, and there were very few dissenters. What I found was quite interesting. I found that a lot of critics didn't review it positively at the time, and I found myself agreeing with those critical reviews. This one in particular, I wrote this down. This is prep. Okay. Man places some paper. Vincent Canby in the New York Times in 1980 called it about as personal as a Christmas card from a bank. There was a great debate with Roger Ebert and a reviewer.
God, Wikipedia's great. Not Wikipedia. IMDb's great for this stuff. Actually.
Oh, absolutely. And the sort of more cynical, looking down his nose type review critic was saying things I agreed with, which was this is for childish sensibilities and paper thin characters, no plot, all this sort of stuff. And I thought I absolutely agree that. Yeah. And then basically everybody I've spoken to who's loved it watched it before they were 15. Yeah. And so when they've watched it again, they're just remembering how great it must have been at the time to have those things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can agree with you there. The one thing I will say about all the original Star Wars films is they're good because sometimes
they're
bad.
That was your sentence. They're good.
Yeah. So tune in next week where we'll be doing The Shining. No. So yeah, there is a hokiness to them. There is like
it's very hokey.
But I think maybe some of it's our modern interpretation because we've got all this great CGI.
Well, that was it. Part of it was CGI problems. So there are bits where you go, well, that's a man in a costume, and that's a bit. But I did forgive it that because it's 40 years old, and it won't translate well in high definition.
39 years old.
Well, round it up. And I did forgive it that because what's it going to do? Not be from the 1970s and 80s. So that was fine. But I think a lot of it as well is, as innovative as it was, it still would suffer from a lot of the plotting and character and dialogue problems of films of the time. So even very slow. I found it to be very slow paced.
But you would have known that going in, wouldn't you, that it was going to be slow paced. Yeah. Like you were I knew, there was apparently somebody did. I think this is important to get this in early doors, is apparently somebody looked at films and the pace of films ever since the medium started has been increasing year upon year. The narrative goes really quick.
And it really does. I mean, there's bits where on Hoth they're preparing for the... you're going to have to tell me what they're called. The walkers, the 80...
80s.
80s.
Yeah.
And there's about 3 or 4 little mini scenes of one character talking to another of no consequence. It's not building dramatic tension, it's not battle plans. And it also reminds me a lot, almost all those scenes, they're interspersed. The transition, the cut from scene to scene is like someone's gone mad with the transitions on PowerPoint.
Right, so yeah, that's part of the visual language of Star Wars, is those swipes up, swipe down, diagonally.
It felt like it didn't
diagonal.
serve a purpose. It was just this is an innovative thing, but again, the first time you do a PowerPoint presentation, it feels like this is going to make my presentation pop.
Yeah,
and so it just distracts.
If you notice that they had that in Star Wars as well, if you remember, like when you watch that, and they keep. So that's a visual language that this series sets up. So,
I mean, on the subject of visual language, I am glad that the scroll thing hasn't caught on, because it's iconic. But it's iconic because there's no other film that does it, and it adds a lot for fans. But what a lazy bit of exposition that is. Yeah,
well, it's harking back to. Radio and TV serials of the 1940s, 30s and 50s, where each week they would have a roundup of what happened the last week. So like Flash Gordon was a big influence, and it would be like, previously on Flash Gordon,
that's great, but...
And that's what that was the kind of feel that Star Wars was going for, that kind of cinema language it was trying to pick up, it was trying to relate to its audience, because obviously this is, George Lucas, man who was born in the 40s. Grew up in the...
Well, I mean, that's 50s. It. It's a very nostalgic film, even as you're watching it. It is a very childish film, and I appreciate that adults love it and so on, but I would be interested to know the percentage of people who watched it as adults who liked it.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have the resources for that kind of data survey.
That's Radio 1 money, that. So I'd like to get into some specifics, really. I mean...
Right.
I do think Luke's too reactive to be a hero, and so you look to Solo to be the reactive go-getter, and I found him just too cold. I could imagine he's awful to waiters at restaurants, and I thought, if this wasn't Harrison Ford, I would hate this character, but it's Harrison Ford, so I like him. But it's not the performance that I like; it's Harrison Ford I like.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask you about. Because, I mean, I knew who Harrison Ford was when I saw it as a kid, but I hadn't seen him that young in anything before.
Yeah.
By the time he did Indiana Jones, he kind of looked like, the flavour of Harrison Ford that I was used to as a child.
Yeah.
And then when he did that in obviously that's from 1977 and 1980, I'm like, wow, that guy looks really young. And it didn't actually... compute with me that it was Harrison Ford until I think I'd watched all three.
Did you like the character when you watched it?
No. When I was a kid, I wasn't that keen on Han Solo for the reasons you just stated there, because he didn't seem to know what he was doing, and Luke got him through what he was doing.
Exactly. Yeah, he's not. I can't think of a good equivalent, but he's not Ace Rimmer in that regard. He's not being like. I don't know. That's a bad example.
He's more like Dave, isn't he? Dave, he was great with the things that he is good at, but then a big dollop of luck always got him out of problems.
Yeah, and I think, and he's not even cheeky, cocky. He's just cold and cruel. It's not like any. Some of the lines are clearly written to be a bit like cheeky, like I can't think of the word for word, but in the sense of I know you want me type things, and all this sort of stuff. But actually, he just comes across as not really being. And I was really surprised of not really having the chemistry with Carrie Fisher. That I really expected. Like I said, Luke's not really a hero, so you look to Solo to be a reactionary. The one who actually not reactionary, to be the active hero. So I think that was a big issue for me. I didn't know who to root for in that sense.
Right. Okay. And as I've got older, obviously because I watched Star Wars and Empire and Jedi pretty much consecutively.
Yeah.
It was pretty obvious from Star Wars that obviously Luke's the hero. that's the guy you're wanting to know about. I find his stuff on Dagobah in those, so from when they leave Hoth to when they
For
meet
his
back
training.
up. Yeah, I find that I enjoy those bits of character between Luke and Yoda.
Yeah.
And I find the only interesting bits of character in when they get to the Cloud City is Bespin, as it's technically known. Yeah, there you go. I do know some stuff. Been practicing for 20 years. Yeah, so when they get to Cloud City, I like the bit in the carbonite chamber with Leia and Luke. With Leia and Han, and I like the bit in the carbonite chamber, as I previously mentioned, with Darth and with Luke Skywalker as well. They're the best bits for me in the film. I like the Battle of Hoth. I enjoyed that.
I think that's
quite a
very
fun
cinematic
part.
in the sense of, it's very iconic. I remember playing, I don't remember which video game it was, but something around the turn of the century. You might have to remind me. There's a video game.
Was it? Oh gosh, there was a few around the turn of the century, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Was it Battlefront? Star Wars Battlefront?
Probably.
Soldier, or was it Star Wars? Was it on the GameCube or was it on the PlayStation?
I would have played it around yours. I don't remember having it, but
oh right, then it was Battlefront 1 or 2. Then you played it more.
Yeah, and that did take me back to that. But when I watched the film, I was sort of disappointed by those scenes. I think a lot of it was. It's probably a retrospective thing, or I'm coming at it after the whole thing's happened. There's not as much peril for me because I know certain people are going to survive, and you know that anyway as a fan. You know that Luke's not going to die in an opening battle. He's not going to die by the Wampa, certainly. So that was it. I think another thing that really came out of the film was there's not many ticking clocks, and that's from what I've heard, that's one of the big notes that screenwriters are often given. You know, you need stakes, you need motivation, you need a ticking clock. So it can't be, I've got to do this presentation, I've got to get this presentation sorted. It's got to be, I need to get this presentation sorted by tomorrow at 9 a.m. and there's just not really a ticking clock. You know, his training, it wasn't. You have to be ready by a certain time. It wasn't entirely clear that he was necessarily training to take down Darth Vader. Maybe that's just my misreading, but he's just training because he's a Jedi, so he needs to be trained by Yoda. And it really made the film drag for me. So I did watch it a second time, because the first time I watched it, I was just drifting off quite a lot. And I thought, I have seen good films in the past that I thought I didn't enjoy, but it's because I was drifting off during, important areas. So I watched it again, and it dragged a bit less, but it still really, really dragged as a result of that. It's hard to know what I'm supposed to care about and why. And
I think if you were an audience member back in '80, though, I think other than Luke, I think all the main characters were up for grabs.
Yeah, it really doesn't help. It really doesn't help, does it? Watching the film well after it's been this monument and this, and I think that's something else that makes something iconic, is just the repetition of seeing that same thing over and over again. There must be a million films that have been overlooked or had really great lines that could have been iconic if people just repeated them a lot.
Yeah.
And there's certain... the fight scene between Luke and Darth was very hokey. I'd need to watch it again, but when Darth was sort of propelling objects at him, it's not like they're flying towards his head and he's ducking and it's cool. It's more like it's more like a pigeon's got in the house and he's trying to get to the window and Luke's in the way of the window and he's like, it's a bit messy.
There is a bit where I noticed when he tries to swipe, obviously, I suppose the special effects there weren't great because he's trying to swipe away the thing with his lightsaber, isn't he? And then
but it's sort of ambling towards him on a string, and that was the best take.
Yeah, that's what they had. That was it's stuff like that does kind of annoy me. That they would change certain things for plot.
Yeah.
And then there was, George Lucas were going about, well, I just didn't think it looked great at the time, so we decided to change it to this. And it's like, well, there's still loads of little bits you could have made better.
And I think bits you could have easily cut out. See, I don't know why C-3PO was shot and then just reassembled, and Chewie's fighting off those smaller gentlemen. That sort of doesn't add anything.
Well done. Yeah, it's well. I think the idea is that they're scavengers, aren't they, of some sort, and they want him to scrap because he's just like he's just a robot. You go down to your robot shop and you buy another one. Why do you want this one? It's like a mobile phone to them, that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
So, but Chewie's like obviously attached to that robot and wants that robot to survive. So he's.
I mean, is it just thinking? Well, he's not. This character's not really. There's nothing in this for him at the moment, so let's disassemble him, make some peril out of that, give Chewie something to do.
I think, in terms of the film, why did he go wandering? I always wondered why he went wandering off because he saw another another.
He's
C3PO
very
model.
inconsequential in the whole film. All he does is say, "Oh, watch out for that." Oh no, never mind. I'm not. No one's listening to me.
Yeah.
Bye. He's poorly served, as is Chewbacca. Actually, Chewbacca was just kind of. Sorry to say this in the shortly after Peter Mayhew has left us. He doesn't have a lot to do. He's sort of basically abused by Han. And he's been written into this corner of, well, all I do is make these sounds that grate on people very quickly.
Did it grate on you? Oh, I love doing impressions.
It really did. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a thing that's in the collective consciousness of just that sound, but I thought this is weird that this is a thing, except that it's in a film that's really famous and it just keeps happening.
Right. Okay. So you didn't like Chewbacca's? Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, Chewie's he's kind of treated as like a loyal dog, isn't he? For I think all the original trilogy films.
Yeah.
There's an even worse thing to come in Jedi. I won't spoil it for you. But that will annoy you even more.
On the subject of annoying, I found Yoda annoying. Which surprised me.
Yeah, he is very annoying.
Very annoying.
First couple of times.
Clarity of speech is not good. I don't mean in terms of his sentence structure, but it's so hard to make out a lot of things he said. And his speech pattern is inconsistent. He's the most famous thing about Yoda, other than being 2 foot tall and green, is that he gets the words in the wrong order. But it's only like every 4th sentence.
Yeah, that's. Oh gosh,
it's just like be consistent with your mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, so what they try to do there is, I think English we have subject, verb, object.
You just did it a bit there. I think English we have, in English we have.
Yeah, in English we have. In English. Hang on, I don't. Yeah,
subject, verb, object.
Is it? Are we SVO?
Yeah.
So we're SVO, subject, verb, object.
So I kicked you.
Yeah, I kicked you. Yeah. I put in, and then say just take French or Spanish or Italian. That's SOV. So subject, object, verb.
So I, your mum.
I
German.
I mum fucked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Your mum fucked. Yeah.
Last night in the town centre, I with your mum. What?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what Yoda's speech is? It's VOS. I think it's verb, object,
but
subject.
only now and then.
Yeah.
It's a weird. That's a weird language, isn't it? So sort of just whenever it's an iconic line, just do it a bit wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, he says there is no try. I mean, try there is no. It's not an iconic line.
All lines in Star Wars are iconic.
It would have become iconic, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, everything has been analysed to death. Like, it's amazing that you're just so unaware of this. It's like, yeah.
What are we doing making a podcast about?
Well, it makes me laugh because it's almost like you've discovered this really obscure kind of
German.
like academic subject. Yeah. Do you know when you've I don't know what was when you find out there's like thousands of people have written like millions of words on something and you're like, oh right, this is actually a big academic
this is a whole
discipline.
thing. So I've got into this thing. It's called food. It's I don't know if you know. It's all the rage with the kids.
Yeah, I've tried it myself. I find it quite appetizing, but I have some issues with it. Yeah, so I mean, somebody, if this ever gets popular, somebody will write in and be like, it's actually this.
Yeah, you've misunderstood it. You don't know what you're on about. Even the guy who was supposed to know what he's on about doesn't know. Verb, object, subject. Idiot.
Yeah. What a twat.
I'm moving on.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what he does, and it is it makes you. It's designed to make him sound like an Eastern wisdom sort of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
well, that's it.
Indian
He's almost a
shaman.
racial stereotype, isn't he?
Shaman.
Yeah. But he was also just annoying. Like, he's just ratting around in Luke's thing, trying to eat his food. And it's like, piss off. Why do you need to? I mean, is he doing this to test Luke and find out more about him so that he's not just putting on his best because he knows
the real question.
guy training?
I mean, the real question is: did you know that he was this great Jedi Master who was meant to be all wise and intelligent?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, that ruined it for me because he's like, "Oh, you'll go and see Yoda," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know who Yoda is. He's not this. He's this little rat one." But even knowing that, it's just like, get this annoying little rat off the time. And again, was he just trying to not reveal his identity at first because he wanted to test Luke and find out more about him, or was he just a bit of a dick?
Oh.
I mean, anyway, yeah, I found him on.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for that noise to go.
Sorry, yeah, that's my daughter.
Yeah.
And the
that noise.
Yeah, sleeping away. She's on the monitor.
It's the baby monitor makes a really loud noise.
Yeah, whenever there's a noise in there, it just makes this. I'll move it away from the microphone.
No, it's fine.
So,
I just want to.
A word on the music.
Yeah.
It's iconic for a very good reason. The Darth Vader stuff's great. The theme of the thing's great, and it's a good score. But there are times when it was so discordant and so loud, and in the way that it just ruined it. So in the fight scene, in the battle scene with the AT-AT, I said AT&T, the AT-ATs
with the cash machine.
I found that I couldn't enjoy it because it was just this constant big discordant music, and it wasn't like building tension. It wasn't making me feel anything. It was just like, all right, shut up, like, you know, it was just all it was. It was intrusive.
Yeah, it does. It can be very intrusive, and then I think when Luke goes into the carbonite chamber, there's no music, is there?
Which is nice, and that's a good touch.
Yeah, and it's very reminiscent of The Godfather, where in the scene where when he goes to get the gun from behind the toilet, and there's no music,
just
the train. Yeah, and in that bit, all you get is Darth Vader breathing.
And I think generally when Darth Vader's on screen, the music is just perfect, and it is really, really good in a lot of places of the film. But sometimes it's just like, just calm down, John. You know.
Yeah. That's interesting because that was kind of, again, that's part of the visual, this audio language of that kind of genre that they were working in Star Wars, was that this was echoing these old-timey, I say old-timey, to them it wasn't old-timey, radio plays, like westerns, The Indians are running galloping across the plains.
Yeah,
you're like,
it's if you were in a pub quiz and it was, what film is this? There wouldn't be a doubt in your mind. It could. There's a very few films that can apply to, but it is very iconic. It's very evocative like that.
Yeah, personally, I think the music is what made Star Wars. I don't think it's what made it. I think it was a big element.
It's a huge contributor, isn't it? Yeah, to the iconography, to the recognisability of it, and the feel of it.
Because if you had like kind of cliched, because a lot of things, even though they didn't do this in the 50s, they used like orchestral scores for like Flash Gordon. But what it was fashionable was to use, even in like, Space Odyssey 2001, they used that famous piece of music that I can't remember off the top of my head. They used that piece of music to kind of. Oh, and the dun 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 dun, dun all that stuff that I'm going to edit later.
I'll sample that.
Of it, but so they used those classical pieces of music, and you could say, well, Star Wars was harking back to that, but these were kind of the outliers. That a lot of the time, sci-fi genre movies and B movies, they would use techno music. Blade Runner, I think, when was Blade Runner made? I think a couple of years later. It might even been the same year it came out. Now, Blade Runner's very much its own, it's neo-noir kind of thing, and it's designed to have a kind of a weird tension to it. But and obviously Star Wars is more of a adventure flick. What year was it? Blade Runner? No, 82. So it came out 2 years after this film, probably in production around the same time. But that was kind of that's kind of how films sounded at this time.
Yeah.
They kind of sounded like, you know,
Very
lasers.
synth. Yeah.
Yeah,
but that
because it was
fits that LA, doesn't it? Of last year or whenever it was. Yeah, it sort of really fits the moment.
Yeah, definitely it does. It works in that film beautifully. But I think it was the last Starfighter came out around the same time as the original Star Wars, maybe. And I mean, that film, I watched that maybe 2 or 3 years after I saw Star Wars, and it's unwatchable because it's awful.
Yeah, well, I mean that's sometimes what the genre does. You know, you take a film like Star Wars, and it will make other things unwatchable because you go, well, how could they not include these 10 things that we've now established are what makes this genre, and they've made it grow up from, you know, what we used to be in the 30s or whatever. It's also harks back to the mythic thing, doesn't it? It makes it more archetypal, and classical music is a bit more timeless like that, isn't it? If you've got, you know, some synths, you go, well, 10 years later that sounds dated. But those kind of classical scores that'll never really date.
Yeah, and I think one thing that to cut to Blade Runner again, is the idea of that was that this isn't about the future; it's about now. All, you know, there's a
a long time ago.
Yeah,
far away.
Yeah, there's a common theme with all sci-fi is that all sci-fi's social commentary on now.
Yeah, it's just the future, but it's a sort of monstrous version of a current feel. Like a Black Mirror is just it's a near future, but it's the same thing, isn't it? It's what if this thing carried on being a problem and got worse? Imagine a scenario.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that appeals to me about Star Wars in general is George Lucas was like, no, this will age, but it'll age better because it's not set in a specific time and place. Yeah. We don't tell you when it's set. You don't even know.
No one's checking their Bebo account.
Yeah. No one's looking at the page.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I do like that. I really love it in a film where nobody's got mobile phones, but it's just not addressed. It's probably the 80s, but it could well be just a small town now. And they just happen to not have mobile phones, and you don't question it. You know, it could be a bunch of teenagers sat around. Not one of them's on their phone, but you're not thinking, well, this isn't very realistic or modern. It must be old times. They just get that sensibility right. And I wonder if that'll continue. Films made 30 years from now, where the filmmakers of the time when they were children wouldn't know a time before mobile phone. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah,
I mean it's hard to know if it's just I like those films because it reminds me of a childhood without mobile phones all the time. There's a kind of innocence and all that stuff, and it brings all that back. I wonder if that will still resonate.
I mean, if you are a child and you are listening to this, what is it like growing up now with mobile phones?
Yeah,
let us know in the on Twitter.
Maybe a future episode we'll talk about 8th grade, where we can dive into that stuff. Really,
we're doing that.
Well,
aren't we now?
I'm just
telling an audience.
I've not seen it yet, but I fully intend to love it. So I'll be recommending that 3 months from now.
Yeah, because that's something. It's like it. You know, when we were kids growing up, oh, you're so lucky to have all these TV channels. You've got 5 of them now. We only had 3 when we were growing up.
And they were thought lucky by their parents because they had a telly or a radio and so on and so on.
Yeah. So you can't change. You can't change when you grow up, can you? That's it. That's sky's blue, water's wet, and all that. But
unless you grew up in ancient Greece, when the sky was wine coloured. Because they didn't have the concept of blue.
Yeah, apparently so, yeah. A little fact.
I've got one other note on the film, and this is...
Go on then. Back onto what we were saying.
When they meet up with Lando, and there's that what is now basically a cliche of you meet up with somebody, the audience doesn't know who they really are, but one of the characters knows them. They meet up, there's a tense moment. One of them says, you've got the cheats come back here, pulls a gun or whatever, and then he goes, hey, how you doing, long time, and it turns out they're friends and it's just a joke they're playing. And there's 2 reasons why there's one reason why I liked that, and that's because I went, oh, that's that thing that people do in films. The two reasons why I didn't like it was because, firstly, that's only done for the audience. That's not done for either of the characters. That tension, that's just something that's so unfair. It took me out of it a little bit because I thought, and it's a big thing in exposition, in anything. If something's written for the audience and it's not written for the characters in the scene, I'm just straight out of it. And that was one thing. Another thing was...
when you say exposition, there's an old saying is, two experts in a room explaining things to each other that they know. And he goes, oh, we need to connect the transistor to the
I know, I'm doing
transwapper.
I've been doing this for 10 years.
I do.
I mean, my least favourite, and this is almost a cliche now, is siblings or family members who refer to each other by how they are family. So it's like, hey sis, there was a time, or hey Uncle John. Everybody always refers to their sibling by, hey brother, how's it going? And
but do you know what? Some parts of the world they do that. I know people who
you're thinking of Hulk Hogan.
Adults.
He says brother a lot. He doesn't have.
I know adults. Honestly, I know adults who will call their aunts and uncles auntie and uncle.
No, I do. That was probably the example because I do call my auntie and uncle, but I wouldn't meet up with my brother and say, "Hey, brother, how's it going?" I might say, "Oh, have you seen Mum?" And that's a much easier, neater way of just going, "Oh, these two have got the same mum, so they're probably brothers," And it's just neater, and again, you're not taking out a scene. The other reason why.
Sorry, which scene is it that annoyed you? So it's
when they land on. I don't know what Lando's place is, but
Cloud City.
That's right. And the Falcon needs some repairs. And at first, I don't know if they were getting shot at, but they weren't being allowed to land, and then they are allowed to land. And then he gets there.
Zoning issues.
Yeah, and he says something like, you've got some nerve coming back here, and then he's like, and then he just gives him a hug and stuff. And the other thing that affected me with that was all I could do was think about any other examples I can think of that happening. I remember it happening in Terminator 2 when Sarah Connor meets up with her old sort of biker hippie.
Oh.
I don't know what.
Wait, when they go to Mexico and she meets Cheech from Cheech and Chong.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't notice that until you were an adult, did you? I think it's Cheech or Chong. I'm not familiar with either of them. I've never seen them.
They didn't really translate over here, I think. Cheech and Chong, that. Because it's like, oh, this is a tense moment for the audience.
I could be totally wrong about that. I'm not being racist. I swear one of them is Cheech or Chong from Cheech and Chong.
Along with it.
And as a child, I obviously didn't know who that was. I'm sure it is. I'm sure I remember watching Terminator 2 and going, oh my God.
Is that Cheech and or Chong? Were there two of them?
No, there was just one.
But I don't think I could pick Cheech and or Chong out of a lineup. If you put them in a lineup with Millie and or Vanilla and salt and or pepper, I wouldn't be able to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, Liam or Noel Gallagher, well, I'm a bit iffy. Best of times.
So I thought Terminator 2,
Fred and his brothers.
And then I'm pretty sure that I've seen it in 50 other things, but I couldn't name any other things.
Where they go?
Where it's like there's a showdown, and then it's not a showdown, we're actually friends, and it's totally for the audience. Yeah,
it's for the. I mean, you can make the argument that it's something they've done so many times that they know that, like maybe obviously Han messaged beforehand. Maybe Han sent a message saying, "Oh, we'll do that thing that we do because I've got somebody with me and I want to impress her." And obviously, look, I'm making excuses for bad writing.
It might have been the first time it's ever happened on film. It might have been great, but it's a bad idea, and I blame Star Wars.
Right, so you're angry at Star Wars for that trope being so you're angry for establishing a cliche, right?
Yeah. So that's a bad cliche.
Episode 1/5. Sam gets angry at Star Wars. Okay, well I'm glad. Hey, at least you know what? At least you're honest about it, because all those things that you've gone through here and said I hate about this film, essentially
that everyone loves and is in the top 5 by IMDb. Because I remember at the end of it thinking, all right, so I remember that of the original 3, there's one of them that people don't love as much as the other ones. It must be this one, surely. And then I thought, no, it can't be, because this is the one where there's like the 4 or 5 hugely iconic things. And then I went on and it's like, oh no, everyone properly loves it. I even went on Reddit on the subreddit Unpopular Opinions and put, I didn't like Empire Strikes Back. I didn't get a single agreement. It was just, you must die now. Why are you here?
Wow. I mean, that's, obviously Reddit represents all human thought and emotion, doesn't it?
I'm sure it's one person. Everybody sounds exactly the same. There's a bit of language, there's a way of speaking on there. If anyone's slightly different from that, they are pariah. And clearly I was pariah. Non grata.
Well, we've been telling you for a long time.
Yeah.
Glad you took the internet to let you know.
I'm grateful to the internet for that.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we're not doing this face to face, because
fisticuffs.
People know actually, we're socialising.
No, you wouldn't like that. No. I mean, I told you shouldn't use your real name on this because your name's dirt now.
Yeah, because it's been associated with you. Right, well, it was nice talking to you. No,
it's been a fun 20-year friendship.
I feel like I know people.
So my final word on it as to whether or not I'd recommend it. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't recommend it. If it didn't have any of the cultural significance, if it wasn't famous, it was just I flicked on Channel 4 at 2 a.m. and I just happened to watch it, I wouldn't recommend it.
You wouldn't recommend it?
No.
So, would you recommend it to young children under the age of 12?
I will show it to my daughter when she's like 6, because I am. There's part of me that's jealous that people can love it. They watched it at an early age or it hit them right, and so it means that they've got this film or these films and upcoming films that they might love, and it becomes their whole life, and it becomes something they would happily spend hundreds of pounds to go to conventions and all this sort of stuff. I mean, that's a great thing for somebody to have. Yeah. So if somebody told... I really like Red Dwarf. I'm aware it's shit. And I'm aware that if I didn't watch that when I was young, then I probably wouldn't like it now.
Yeah, I think, again, with Red Dwarf, I think it knew its quality was bad, didn't it? That was part of the joke. Yeah. Was, because it's a sitcom and it's a British sitcom, everything's a nod and a wink.
And we've got no money, so this is literally a box of cornflakes, painted grey, and it's a bit of a spaceship. But I love that, and I know that, like I said, if I watched that for the first time now, I'd say, get that out of my sight. So do
you think perhaps that's because Americans take their filmmaking a bit more seriously than the British do?
There was an element of pervasiveness, taking itself a bit too seriously. Yeah. It was, for me, it was DC rather than Marvel, in that sense. And I think in some ways you have to take your film seriously. I do like Marvel, and they do take the subject matter seriously, but
I think they take the subject matter.
There's real peril.
Yeah, and they also don't treat not always, but they don't treat their audience as idiots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is DC definitely. This could be a whole other thing, Marvel DC, but that's essentially my point. So I wouldn't recommend it to anyone over 12.
Really? Not even over 12? Yeah. Well, I suppose by the time, if you're not into it, by the time you're 12, you're going to be cynical about it, because it's like, oh, that's the thing my parents like. Or
there's a whole How I Met Your Mother thing.
Yeah, my little brother.
I've not seen where Barney starts to date somebody who hates Ewoks, so he's convinced that she's 40, because he's thinking, well, she must have first watched Ewoks when she was, however old. So she must be 50 or something, and then he finds out that she's English and she just didn't watch it until she was older, and it's fine. Right. And I think there is that element of, I will watch Dead Eye. I probably won't like it.
So Neil Patrick will date you. That's the important lesson we've got from this, right? Yeah. Obviously, I would recommend it.
As you did, and so I spent personally 4.5 hours of my life acting up on that. So next up, we're having a little quiz. This time a bit off the cuff. In future weeks, more prepared. So the host, which is in this case Hugh Dempsey, will be quizzing me on the film.
Well, I can do a quick quiz, 5-question quiz off the top of my head now on Empire, if you like, because I don't need to
think that would be
prepare this.
good.
So,
And-
question: Let's
Absolutely.
see if we can set a humorous tone for this.
Yeah.
So, what? See, you can tell. I can tell you've boned up for this because you knew the name of the Wampa. Yeah,
That's what I do.
I'm trying to think of a good question off the top of my head.
I'll use this opportunity to
Yeah,
have a
I'm
sneaky
literally
bite
going
of
to
my
edit this bit
burger.
out. I'm trying to think of a good. I've got to think of the answer first. Okay. Okay, so I think I'll start with an easy one. What was the name of the planet Luke went to see Yoda? I've said it about 7 times,
Oh, bloody hell.
at least.
Yeah. Jabaris. Is that no?
You get 2 guesses.
There's a lot of D's and B's and J's. Yeah, I'll say Jabaris.
No, it was Dagobah. Yeah.
Dagobah. It was in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
Dagobah,
spelled
fair enough.
I think it Deogah or something like that. It's not spelled Degbar, as you might think it would be. I remember the first time I saw it going, "Deg, what?" Oh, I have to give an honourable mention to Walker's Crisps and Taz's in the 1997 in the lead up to the re-release of Star Wars, because Star Wars is yes. Star Wars I, because they had these amazing pogs or Taz's or whatever they're called. We'll get letters.
Yeah.
And it was all Star Wars themed. I actually had the book for this. You had to collect 50, so I ate a lot of crisps. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
That explains a lot.
And they and it had all the names, the characters. I mean, I had a pog, no, not a pog. Yeah, a pog. No.
Did it
So
slot
wasn't
together?
A pog, it was a Taz, wasn't it? The Taz. Yeah, I had a Taz.
Taz, yeah.
And it was literally Peter Cushing's face in Star Wars, outside profile, and it gave me the name of the character. I didn't care at 9 years old. An elderly man who was a general in Star Wars. Who's...
Yeah, no, I think that's not many kids are excited about Peter Cushing.
I remember that one, but I learnt the name of the character, so Grand Moff Tarkin he's called. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know what a
Top
Moff
lad.
a Grand. I mean, is it a Grand Moff better than just Epic Moff?
I mean, is
Or is
Moff
that
part of his
first name?
title?
Is it?
Is Grandy's first name?
Maybe he's not even a. Why? Yeah, I think that would.
Maybe he's not even a Star Wars.
I mean, how many stars are in it? I counted at least 25,000.
Well, Tatooine
Is a planet.
had 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So
2
what about
suns,
all the stars at the beginning of the film when they're in space?
Probably dozens. We can only estimate, but dozens.
Lowball.
All right, question number
So
2.
you had Dagobah, so you got that one wrong. So you really didn't. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Okay. What malfunctioned on the? I'm going to give you another reason. What malfunctioned on the?
Oh no, yeah.
On the Falcon.
On the Falcon. I'll leave a pause for the listener to answer that.
They'll all know it.
The
hyperdrive
hyperdrive.
Really make that easy for you. So congratulations, you got that one right.
Oh god.
Right. This is going to be a staggered test, so it's going to get harder. Don't worry. I thought you'd get Dagobah, so I had to lowball a little bit.
I really thought I would as well.
Yeah,
I really thought I would.
because I'd said it 17 times.
This doesn't represent me though. I'm a 5-star man.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he'll punish me with this later. You're better at quizzes than I am.
Yeah.
Let me think for the one. See, it all makes sense to me because I'm trying to think of how do you ask somebody who's only seen it twice.
showing off.
What was the name of the substance they put Han Solo in?
God, you've said it a million.
It was carbonite.
Yeah. That's another one in the public conscious as well. Carbonite.
Yeah.
Yep, carbonite.
Well
2 out
done.
of 3.
I need something difficult now. I found them were the words that signalled that Luke and Han were found after their night in the frozen waste of Hoth. But what was the call sign-off of the officer who said it?
Jesus Christ. So this isn't for me, is it? This is fine. So the listener needs something to keep me going. What was the sign-off? Your Holiness, from Bob Hope.
Obviously, you were so close with that, actually. It was... I don't know the answer. I think this is one of these hideout.
We should change the name of this podcast to "Please Don't Listen to This."
I mean, that's going to be... Don't ruin it. Yeah, I think it's Rogue 2. Yeah, it was Rogue 2, yeah.
Rogue... Oh, of course, Rogue 2. He said it 50 million times. Yeah, this is Rogue 2, this is Rogue 2. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Are you there? This is Rogue 2. Fuck,
yeah.
I knew that.
This is the kind of osmosis that I got from it. That even though I wasn't sure of the answer, I knew the answer because...
That guy is so pleased with himself when he finds them. He is...
Have you seen this? It's a giant ice planet. Have you ever tried finding anything in a frozen tundra?
Yeah, but come on, man.
At an altitude.
He's not pleased. He's pleased with himself. It's almost like he knew that he was an extra, struggling sporting artist, and thought, I've got two lines in this Star Wars film. He's just really happy with himself. I found them.
Okay,
really
deep inside the Hoth base, Han tells Leia, "You like me because I'm..." Oh, this one's easy. So I'll give you the three options I've got here.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, hang on, I know this. Because she says, I like nice men.
Yeah.
You like me because I'm... Oh, a scoundrel.
Well done, you got that one right. Yeah, it's a scoundrel.
Back of the net.
What does... And for bonus points, what does Princess Leia call Han's Solo?
This is the famous, a carpet muncher or something. What does she call it?
It's a bit in Family Guy where he punches her for calling her this. You don't use this word. Can you believe it?
What was it again?
So you're a scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Nerf herder?
Yeah.
Oh, I should have really known that.
George Lucas is writing at its best.
Who's Scruffy? Yeah,
who you call nerf herder? Which I'd love to see some nerfs. Well. All I imagine is it's those Nerf gun bullets.
I know. Yeah, he's just a herder of bits of foam.
Yeah,
cylinders of foam. A projectile.
There must have been some incident in his past where maybe he got hit in the eye with a Nerf gun and was going out for a few minutes. And those kind of things can scar a child, even someone as rough as tough as Han Solo. It's just life, mate, isn't it?
He's a knob.
Yeah.
He's not a scoundrel, he's just a dickhead.
Right, so...
Rude to waiters, Han Solo.
It's getting... So, out of I knows, how many would you give it out of 10?
So, how many... What's the maximum? 5?
10.
10. I'd give this film 3 I knows.
So you would actually kind of half recommend it a little... Oh, yeah, because you said that you'd let your daughter watch it because you don't want it to be a social pariah like yourself. That's understandable.
Yeah, and I listed 4 things I like about it an hour ago. So.
I haven't written all the things that you hate about it, but they'll be in the episode description.
And I think we're good.
So you gave it 3 I knows out of 10 I knows. Okay.
So I will not be watching that again, but I do appreciate this opportunity to be slightly more normal as a human being functioning in 21st century society. So I do really like it. Next week's going to be your chance to become a part of society once and for all.
Yeah.
Shall we announce it?
Yes. So next week we're gonna watch The Princess Bride. The Princess Bride. Yeah. The Princess Bride.
Hugh has never seen The Princess Bride. I've seen it a fair few times. Really loved it. So tell me what you know about it already. Tell me what you think you're going to think.
So I know that. How long we got? Literally, how long we got? Let's give it a few minutes. So yes. So I know that it's. I don't want to give it all away. So I know that it's got a famous line where the main character goes, "You killed my name's something Montoya. You killed my father. Right. I'm now here to kill you," or something like that. I think he says. I know that it subverts the genre, that it's dressed up like a fairy tale, but it really is kind of a nod and a wink, and this is what fairy tales are like. I know Andre the Giant's in it, the famous WWE/F wrestler.
Okay, so you know a little bit about it, but fundamentally not that much.
No, not enough to I need to watch it, obviously.
Yeah.
That's why I want to watch
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode. What can they do, Hugh, if they want to email us?
They can go to their computer, they can turn it on.
Phone, iPads.
I mean, you're complicating
Tablets.
things here. I'm telling them how they can email us, not
1996,
emails in
Grandad.
general.
Okay.
Yeah, so
how can they email us?
https:// now. They can email us at pleasewatchthis.pod@gmail.com.
And if you want to get involved with Twitter, we are at PleaseWatchPod. Otherwise, if you just fancy leaving us a review or 5 stars and all that, we won't hold it against you.
I will, though. He won't.
But that's fine, 50-50. So next week we're going to do Princess Bride. Thank you so much for downloading this and listening and that.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.